Hey guys, wanted to let you know why I wanted to introduce the stories about the tow truck and the spaghetti recipe. There's going to be a few more that I'm going to tell. I'm going to tell the story about building a bridge or building a wall for the purpose of building rapport. We're also going to be talking about, in negotiations, how, negotiations are like kind of like a deck of cards in the center. Those are other stories that are each their own video that I'm going to be dropping in the future. Um, but these stories that I tell you, I'm dropping a lot of them here in the beginning because they're kind of like the foundation of a building, right? If you build that foundation nice and strong, then you can build that building as high as you want. But if that building foundation is weak, you can only build it so high. So I want to make sure that you have the dialogue to give you the comfort to communicate with your prospects in a manner that paints you as the expert and it makes it easy to hire you. And telling stories is a great way to build rapport. You just got to find ways to have the stories tie in and be applicable. Now, I use the stories, the tow truck story, the spaghetti story, the building a bridge. I use every one of the building a bridge and the deck of cards. I use every one of those stories with my clients, and I find ways to splice those stories in. Like when we're negotiating home inspections, for example, the deck of cards is when you ask them for something, you're taking cards off. And when they ask you for something, they're taking cards off. And when there is no cards left in the middle of the table in that deck, and one person asks the other person for something as there's not a card to take, the deal is dead. Everybody walks away because you couldn't come to an agreement. So I make sure that people understand that idea when they start asking favors to the other side when we're negotiating home inspection. Is that necessary? Can we do that? Can we live without that? If you didn't get what you wanted, would you still want this house? I'm making sure that I really make them think deeply so that they don't get emotionally caught up on the fact that what we're talking about is a cracked light switch cover, which costs 30 cents at Home Depot. That shouldn't even be on that list in the first place. But there's a big disconnect where people have their logical mind and their emotional mind. So you got to figure out who you're selling to so you can know what stories to best use. If you're dealing with somebody who's very factual, they're probably not going to like the allegories or the metaphors quite as much. They just want, factual information. Give that to them. Remember, sales isn't a one size fits all. And that's why I'm telling you, like, these are my stories. Use them if you want. Please use them. Tell me you're using them. Tell me, like, hey, I used this story on an appointment. It went really well. Let me, drop what do you call it? Drop a comment in the description. I would love to hear that if you're actually, if you end up using these. But I want to give you the concept of putting stories together, and they can be your story. I'll tell you the story about the first time my house felt like a home. And I can tell you who I tell that story to, when I tell that to them in the deal, what point, and why I tell that to them. There's reasons for all of this stuff to establish certain points or things that you can focus on or bring back up later. Just like earlier in one of the previous videos, I mentioned about how at the end of the deal, the lender is oftentimes asking the buyer for documents, and the buyer gets frustrated because the lender's been sitting on it for 3 weeks in their mind, right? But because I prep them for that's part of the process, when that lender asks them for the docs, instead of getting pissed off, they say, hey, no problem. I got you covered. Jimmy told me you were going to need documents right before settlement. See how just the little insights, the little stories, that story right there just happened, you know? And the story about the lender needing docs last minute, that happened too. And that buyer, I told them this story in advance. And when the time came up, they referenced the story back to me and laughed about it. Guys, that's what I mean by you're answering questions people don't even know to ask. You're just setting your process up. This is your performance. This is your 30-minute stand-up comedy routine. You get to do it over and over and over and change little parts of it as you go. So you become better and better and better. And before you know it, you feel like you're, and it's not a performance in the sense that it's fake. It's a performance, and that becomes you. You become the person you portray. You know why? Because you're going to be always looking sharp when you show up for the appointment. You know, you're going to show up early. And we're going to get into the SOPs, or standard operational procedures, to make sure that you're never late. Like silly little things. That's a video in and of itself as well. Anyway, my friends, I hope you got something out of this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And thanks so much.